Hey Star Wars fans, Cody with Star Wars Doctrine here. Welcome to another episode of Star Wars Doctrine's Clone Wars and Chill. This is our show all about the Clone Wars, breaking down every episode of Season 7. And we were blessed again with another awesome episode and a wrap-up to the Bad Batch arc, which is the first arc in this season. So, definitely bittersweet to be moving on to the next arc because I'm really excited for the next arc. But this one was really fun and enjoyable and a perfect way to kickstart the series. And I guess we'll dive right into it. So it starts off with, them trying to devise a plan here. They have Echo back, as we saw in the last episode. Echo offers to send a fake signal or a bad strategy to Admiral Trench because he still has access to get into their systems and they won't recognize that he's an outside source. So he basically sends in a plan to make Admiral Trench and the droids think they're going to do one thing. So they gather all the droids. Ends up being a big trap. Gather all the droids in one area so that Echo can shut them off. And one of the big themes throughout this is trust, because the Bad Batch especially, but Rex and Anakin do as well, still have to kind of figure out if they can trust Echo or not, or if there's a chance he could be a double agent. And I found myself even wondering that the same from an audience perspective. But yeah, so this is taking place above Anaxis, and they're on Admiral Trench's dreadnought, and we finally get to see some of Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Mace Windu all in the same battle. Pretty exciting. Mace even mentions that the Republic has like 12 battlefronts on Anaxis, and I thought that was just a really cool. Made me think of the video game Battlefront, which we play a lot on Twitch, so you can check that out if you haven't already, if you enjoy watching streams. But made me think of that, which someone pointed out that Mace isn't even a playable character in Battlefront, so it's kind of sad, but it was funny to hear that term used. The fortune cookie for this episode is trust placed in another is trust earned, which, like I said, trust is a big theme in this episode, and the Bad Batch really shows that they don't trust Echo at first, and Echo, kind of puts up with the bullying a little bit and is like, oh, I'm going to prove it to you. And ultimately, they have to put all their trust in him, or else he could easily have gotten all of them killed. So anyways, they do learn to trust him and eventually welcome him into their Bad Batch, which was definitely a twist at the end that I was not ready for, wasn't expecting, and to be honest, I'm still not 100% sure how I feel about it. But along those lines, Echo does look quite a bit different than he used to, and quite a bit different than the other clones. He's essentially a cyborg now, and he has pretty cool gadgets and things that he has built into him. We see him kind of doing some things that normally we'd only see an astromech do, like hacking into things, like with R2's little prong, and a pretty handy guy to have around. And although obviously it's unfortunate that he was mutated and turned into a cyborg like that, he's definitely finding the ways to help with it. So I guess in that sense, he's wearing now a little bit different of an armor than the other clones. He almost does look like he belongs in the Bad Batch. He still doesn't look healthy, very skinny in the face, and so he does look like he fits in, but to me it's like, man, that's Rex's brother, and it's just sad to see that. But in a way, I'm sure with Domino Squad being gone, he feels like he needs a place. So I suppose it could be fitting in some way. But yeah, he essentially uses his new body, his cyborg abilities to smoothly defeat the Separatists. He's able to get the droids gathered in one room and shut them down by sending like a pulse that pretty much effectively works like Anakin blowing up the droid control ship in episode 1, where they all buzz out and break, and saves the day because Mace Windu and Obi-Wan were starting to get cornered. So we see one of the most exciting scenes to me was that scene right there where Mace and Obi-Wan kind of get cornered, but it gives you quite a few fun scenes. Mace Windu actually confronts the droid army. He points his lightsaber at him. He says, "This is your chance to surrender." And I've never seen anything like that in Star Wars, like when you're talking to droids. I thought it was pretty funny to see, Mace trying to reason with them, which they're droids, and they're obviously they're just going to do what they're told to do more than likely from Admiral Trench, but it's pretty interesting. So Trench starts a countdown on a bomb, and Anakin kind of swoops in to save the day because they need this code. And, because he tends to do things not the Jedi way, he just goes straight up to Trench and confronts him, which was definitely one of the more exciting scenes because you get to see a little bit of Anakin's dark side come out, showing a little bit of Vader through him. And he does a little bit of dark Jedi kind of stuff. He chops off Trench's arms, although they're just kind of cyborg arms, to threaten him to be able to get that last code. And when Trench tries to make a last little maneuver on him, Anakin just stabs him right through the chest without even thinking about it. And he says to him, he said, "Admiral, it was a pleasure." And I thought it was pretty interesting to get to see that in the Clone Wars because it was so dark and so 0% remorse as Anakin just did it. He didn't have that thought of this isn't the Jedi way. And granted, he was still kind of defending himself, but he could have easily probably taken Trench in if he needed to. But he just put a hole right through his chest. And anyways, the fact that they don't shy away from that stuff because it's a cartoon makes me happy. I'm not saying it needs to be dark all the time, but it's very exciting to still feel that Star Wars-y Anakin dark side vibe, and we're getting close to Revenge of the Sith, so it's really good to see some of that character development for Anakin. After that, we see the Bad Batch and Rex and all them traveling through the Dreadnought to get off of it, and Crosshair and Wrecker have kind of a friendly competition to see who can kill the most droids, and Crosshair pulls off this move that's amazing where he puts these little reflectors and bounces one bullet off and it kills tons of droids, showing his little sharpshooter eye off. And once again, Crosshair's been one of my favorite of the Bad Batch just because some of the having a sniper as a main character is cool. Getting to see his scope cam, it's been really fun. But Wrecker at the end gets to have the best day of his life. He actually literally says it's the happiest day of my life because Anakin hands him the control to the bomb and Wrecker gets to blow up the entire ship. And of course, with Wrecker being your comic relief where he's all goofy and happy about killing clankers, he's incredibly excited to get to make something go boom. I've said it before, Wrecker's been my least favorite of the Bad Batch, but he wasn't as bad in this episode. He's still a little gimmicky and a little goofy, but, I can handle him. I just happen to like the rest of them a little bit better. Something of note that someone pointed out to me was that Wat Tambor, the Techno Union guy, he actually isn't even seen. And he was kind of a big part of the last episodes because he's kind of overseeing all the stuff that we were part of, or that this arc was part of. And we know that Anakin gets to see him a little bit later down the road on Mustafar. It's actually interesting. After I was doing some research, I knew Wat Tambor was on Mustafar. I didn't realize that we never actually get to see Anakin kill him. We see him at the end of that table, but then it cuts away and we see Anakin kind of deactivating his lightsaber. But we don't ever see Anakin actually kill Wat Tambor. But Wikipedia does credit him dying by Darth Vader. And apparently there's a deleted, that scene was extended before it was cut, and they do show him killing him. So although it's not in the movie, I think it's safe to say and assume that he was killed by Darth Vader / Anakin on Mustafar at that point in time with the other separatist leaders. So I guess Anakin gets his revenge on that. It's kind of an interesting scene as I think about it, because I always just, thought that scene was interesting because they're all unarmed, and I always it's interesting because Sidious asks him to go wipe them out because now they're enemies to the Empire, but they were also enemies to the Jedi. So when Anakin is killing all of them, he probably had an interesting feeling of I've been hunting these guys and had a war with these guys for how long, and it probably felt really good to get to kill some of these guys like Wat Tambor and, all this other separatist leaders, obviously giving into his hate, something that he probably wanted to do for a long time, like we see him do to Trench in this episode. So a little bit of dark side there for Anakin, and we close out the episode seeing the Bad Batch trusting Echo and offering them a spot, and you get a touching little message from Rex where he says, if you feel like you belong with them, if you feel like you belong in the Bad Batch, then I support that, and you deserve to be happy and have a place. And I thought we were going to get some sort of thing where Echo says, no, my place is with you, Rex, or something. And I was completely blindsided by the fact that he decides to join the Bad Batch. But he salutes Rex, and it was very touching, and decides to go off with the Bad Batch. And I'm really interested to see if the Bad Batch is going to pop up in any of the future arcs. And it really has me curious what they do during Order 66, because I would assume that all of them have chips as well. Echo, we know, has a chip. Whether they remove theirs or not, I don't know, but I'm excited / curious to see if they're actually even going to talk about it. I hope we don't just get left hanging and have to wonder. I really do hope they talk about what those guys do, because I think the Bad Batch would be a very good example of some clones who would definitely be defective and definitely find a way to avoid Order 66, because they're just crazy like that. So I'd feel bad for whichever Jedi has to deal with Wrecker and some of the Bad Batch if they do go through with Order 66, because those are some tough clones. Kind of looking forward to the next episode, because we do get the start of the Ahsoka arc. Can't wait to see where that goes. Really excited to keep watching these. I think that these were, like I said, this arc was a great way to start it off, but I think the best is yet to come. We're going to get the Ahsoka and the Siege of Mandalore stuff. Is going to be the rest of the episode, so I look forward to watching those and talking about them with you guys. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Would love to hear some of your thoughts on this episode. If you haven't already, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. And as always, may the Force be with you.